Right, so now let's look at question 5, right? Let's look at question 5. So this is question 5 according to the questions that you were given, right? The list of practice exam questions that was compiled. So we are still doing exponents and sets. So let's look at the question that we are given here. So here they are saying simplify without using a calculator. So let's start with 2.1.1. Right, so they are saying simplify without using a calculator. So we are given 2 to the negative 1 plus 3 to the power of negative 1 all squared, right? So what I'm going to try and do, I'm going to try and simplify here, right? So the laws of exponent that will be applicable with regards to that, it's the same as this one, right? Where you have 8 raised to the power of negative x, a raised to the power of negative x, 1 over a x, right? So that's the law of exponent that we are going to try and apply here. So let's see. So this is going to be 1 over 2 plus 1 over 3 all squared, right? And then from here, what we are going to try and do, we are going to try and find the lowest common denominator, right? So the lowest common denominator is going to be what? 6, right? So your LCD here, your LCD is going to be 6, right? And then from here, how many times does 2 go into 6? It's going to be 3 times, right? And 3 times 1, that's going to be 3, right? And then from there, how many times does 3 go into 6? It's going to be twice. 2 times 1, it's going to be 2, right? And we still have squared. And then from there, we now have 5 over 6 all squared. And this is the same as having 5 squared over 6 squared, right? And 5 squared, it's 25. And then 6 squared, it's 36, right? So from here, we don't need to simplify further. We can leave it here. This is our final answer, right? So now let's look at question 2.1.2, right? Let's look at 2.1.2. So 2.1.2, we still have to simplify without using a calculator. So we have 2 times 4 to the power of x plus 2 minus 4 to the power of x minus 3, right? All over 2 to the power of x times 2 to the power of x, right? So when I see this question, right, the first thing that comes to my mind is I have 4, right, and I also have 2, right? So what I'm trying to get to a point where I will have the same bases. So I will have a base raised to the power of x, and those bases should be the same, right? So what I'm going to try and do, I'm going to try and break down this, right? So it's going to be 2 times 4 to the power of x times 4 to the power of 2 minus 4 to the power of x times 4 to the power of minus 3, right? All over this is the same base. So you have, when you have the same bases, what do you do to the exponents? You add the exponents, right? So x plus x is going to be 2x, right? Yeah, it's going to be 2 to the power of 2x. Great. So now we still have to simplify this further. So we are going to have 2 to the power of 4x times 4 squared minus 4 to the power of x times 4 minus 3. This is going to be all over 2 to the power of 2x is the same thing as 4x, right? So now I have the same base of so I have an exponent which has the same basis. So I have 4, I have 4, I have 4 here, right? So this is what I have. I also have this, I also have that, right? So I can factor that out. So when I do factor them out, so I'm going to have 4 to the power of x. Then I'm going to be left with 2 times 4 squared minus 4 to the power of minus 3. Which is all over 4 raised to the power of x, right? Then 4 and 4 will cancel each other. Then I'll be left with 2 times 2 times 4 to the power of 2 minus 4 to the power of minus 3, right? So this is the same thing as 2 times 16 minus 1 over 4, 3, right? And this is the same thing as 32 minus 1 over so 4 to the power of 3. 4 to the power of 3, it's 4 times 4, which is 16, times 4 is going to be 64, right? So you have 64. Great. And then now you are going to solve that by finding the LCD, right? So you have 64, right? And then you also have a 1 here. You have divided by 1, right? So how many times does 1 go into 64? It's going to be 64 times, right? And then you have 64 times 32, right? And then how many times does 64 go into 64? It's 1 times, so this is going to be minus 1, right? So I don't know what 64, because they said without using a calculator. If you can solve it, right there, you can solve it, but 64 times 32, that's 2048 minus 1, right, over 64. All right. Then I'm going to have 2047 all over 64. And then I end here. This is my final answer. Right, so this is how we solve 2.1, right? This is how we solve 2.1. Now let's move on to the next question.